Welcome to Lesson 9. In Lesson 9 we'll be addressing the secondary soldiers, one here on the ground and one running off here to screen right. And then the secondary robots, there's one here behind the tree, and then there's another that's really just a head, if I'll zoom in here, on the left hand corner. I'll flip on the value study so we can see that a little bit better. Basically, the third robot is really just a head shape here on the left side. He's really just a framing element, as is this one, but we see all of him. And now, the way I'm going to treat all of these guys is not very complicated. I'm going to probably use 3 tones at most to really define them, because they're not the centerpieces of the painting. We've already defined those two guys, the main robot and the main soldier here running towards us. So we do want to give them care in what we're doing. We want to make the silhouettes nice, the shapes nice. We want to make the highlights appealing. We want to make things work according to the lighting scheme. We just don't want to put as many levels of detail into them as we have our main subjects. So I'll flip that value study off, put the line art on. First thing I'm going to address is this second robot here in the distance. So I'll begin by tracing him. And he ought to make a really cool shape here in the distance. Great, now we've got a shape. I'm going to make a new layer and fill. Turn off the line art and darken it. There we go. We want to make sure he's behind that tree trunk layer that we made a while ago. And we'll push him down just a little bit like that. Very good. Kind of smooth out some of his rougher edges. And now, with his shapes, I'm going to go and start just doing the highlights on him. I'm not going to give him the individual piece-by-piece treatment that I give the main robot. I reserve that for him because, again, he's one of the 2 main characters. For the robot in the back, I'm not so concerned about the complexity and the level of detail. So I'm brightening up that value there, and I'm going to make it warmer, sort of a yellowy orange. I think that's going to be a better color and value to use. And just with a few highlights, you begin to see things. Your eye begins to make sense of certain things. And that's a great thing. It really works in your favor as an artist because it doesn't mean you have to really render every single aspect of a piece if the eye is going to do some of the work, then you can really focus on the parts that need that much attention to detail. So I think this is working out for us. With only 2 values, we've defined a good deal about this this robot here. I'll save a 3rd value for the brightest highlights. Okay, now we'll go into the legs down low. And you see me sort of frisking off areas with this geometric lasso tool. It's a technique that's used traditionally in a lot of background artists for animation use. They'll generally take a piece of transparency paper, or transparency rather, not paper, just the plastic transparency, or a cell, and they'll cut out a shape and then use it as a stencil, basically, and they'll paint inside of it. That's basically what I'm doing here. So as you can see, there's not much required to make a very bold statement about this this character here in the back. And I think with those values, it's actually working out just fine. I will add some of those dangling wires that we have in the main robot to this silhouette as well. I really like those. Okay. And now I will make a new layer and parent it, and begin putting in the extreme highlights. And I say the extreme highlights are relevant or relative to this value system on this robot, not any other robot or any other character on screen, specifically this one. I can't use the brightness of these highlights on the soldier on this robot in the back. It just wouldn't make sense. There's too much atmospheric perspective going on between the two. That is to say that what causes that atmospheric perspective are particles floating in the air. You know, the further you are, the more particles there are, therefore the shadows of something at a distance become more dull, as do the highlights. But relative to one another, generally, they're still the same ratio of difference. So I'm picking out little edges and tips to give these highlights to. And I think that's good. Now I'm going to try giving a fill color to this character, which is again a light that is not so bright as the key light, which is coming from the left on him, but helps define the other side of the character. I'm trying to find a value that's going to work well with our background color too. There we go. If I went too high, it would blend too much with the background. And just the way I did with the key light affected areas, do the same thing with the fill light affected areas. I'm going to frisk off an area, give it some paint, and work my way down the robot. Okay, I like that very much. I'm going to merge all of it together. And there we go. I have one neat robot shape. And on a new layer, I'm going to test out some lights, namely a red light, to signify some sort of eye. Maybe right here in the center of this one. There we go. Give it a little bit of glow. And there we are. Just up the contrast a little bit. Yeah, just a couple points, not too much. And there you have it. There is one of our background robots, or our secondary robots, rather. It's probably more accurate to say. Given the secondary character treatment. Not too much detail. Just the definition of planes according to the light source. And we'll end that lesson here. And in the next lesson, we'll address the third and final robot.